That's scary, Christian. You guys are right up in there.
So this is this one, you know, the story behind this, which I'd like to kind of talk about, which I'm sure you could associate with as well, is this was a commercial shoot. It was for Patagonia, the outerwear. And we kind of just got the green light to go into the Sierra Nevada mountains, which is my home mountain range, and just go backcountry skiing and snowboarding. I had a skier and a snowboarder, and we basically just went up and pitched a tent up high in the mountains and went ski touring from there for like 3 or 4 days, just skiing, going out and skiing lines with beautiful light and shooting product for them and having a good time in the process. And as we camped at this location, we had a huge hit list of stuff we wanted to ski, and we would go up in the morning and ski all day and come back to camp. Wow. And this it's called a couloir, which is like an alleyway through the rocks where the snow funnels in. And it's like a little ribbon of snow in between the granite. And as we were skiing by this massive cliff every morning, we were hiking up to go higher up on the mountain. I would look up and see this little sliver of a couloir that was only about 5 feet wide and went up maybe about, not even 1,000 feet, but super gorgeous and real pronounced couloir with these, each wall was several hundred feet high in this huge chasm. And so we saw it, and you literally, when you were walking by or skinning by, you had about 10 seconds to see it, because if you went another 10 feet one way or another 10 feet the other way, it disappeared and you never saw it. It just blended into the mountain. So I saw it, and my buddy Forrest here on the snowboard, I stopped and I'm like, dude, check that thing out. I'm like, how cool that is. And I was like, it's east facing. The sun rises about right over there. I'm not exactly sure where it rises, because we didn't have, you don't have apps with you up in the mountains to tell you exactly where the sun rises. But we had a night, we knew it was going to rise to the east. Right. We knew it was somewhat, we'd been getting up at sunrise. So we knew we had a good idea where the sun was rising. And I was like, let's roll the dice. Let's get up tomorrow morning and let's get up there and let's be up in that couloir when that sun rises. And if we're lucky, it's going to rise between those two hallways and light us up. Yep. And both Forrest and my buddy Max were totally game. And that's a big part of what we do, is having athletes that are as enthusiastic as we are. Of course,
that makes a difference.
To get up at 3 a.m. and are willing to take those chances. Yeah. And so we got up at 3 a.m. and started hiking up the mountain. And as we're climbing up the couloir, you can see it's getting brighter. And, I think it's going to happen. And sure enough, that sun popped and just, boom, it sliced right through that little sliver of rock. So got this shot hiking up, and then I got some really good ones when we turn around, put the skis on and skiing back down.
Wow. I mean, that concept and that vision of like seeing that and you being able to create that. I mean, that's why these companies like Patagonia want you to be able to shoot their campaigns or be able to do these. It's that like vision, because they probably give you a little bit of direction, but then they're like, go, here's a product, you know what I mean? What you're going to be able to create. And it's not like you went and you're like, okay, so this is on the shot list. I need this, this, and this. It's like you went, looked around, saw your surroundings, saw how the light was interacting and doing that. I mean, that's why you are who you are.
And I think they ended up on the cover of their catalog too the following year.
I've seen it. Yes, definitely.
Yeah.
Oh man. I love your usage of like shooting into the light. You don't always have people that do that. A lot of people use the light, you know what I mean? As opposed to shooting into the light like this. But your flares, I've been noticing through the past few images, is kind of a signature look of yours that I'm starting to see a lot more, you know what I mean? Like using that light. And I also love to shoot into that way too, but you get these kind of effects like this that are just feel a very different feeling.
I guess I've had that said to me a lot. Like people could look at an image and know it's my image before they even see the caption on it, which I guess says a lot to that. I've got a particular look to my photography, and shooting into the light backlit is always been something I've really enjoyed doing. And I actually learned that early on in my career, like way back when I first started shooting photos. And, and as when I first started in photography, I guess if you looked at most manuals on how to shoot photography, it's like, you don't shoot into the sun, you know what I mean? And one day I was shooting powder with a friend of mine, and we were shooting this feature, and he's like, "Hey, why don't you shoot it from down below looking up?" And then, sun was coming behind him. I'm like, "Yeah, that could look kind of cool," and I shot it and looked cool. And, a week or two later, I got back to slide film and actually saw the photo on the light tip. And I was like, "Wow, this is really cool!" Like the total backlit, the emphasis of the light and the shadows. So I've been doing that throughout my career a lot. And it's really important in snow. When you're shooting snow, that the sun, you've got some sort of backlighting, whether it's from the side or, as a person once said, if you're shooting in the sun, especially like skiing, for instance, if you're looking at your subject, and if you do this with your hands, if you don't see the sun in between your hands, you're probably shooting the wrong way.
Yeah.
So you got to have the sun coming at you at some degree, because you got to have shadow. If the sun's behind you, especially in snow, it's just going to be a completely white slope, and you're not going to have any shadow, or you lose a lot of the depth in the image. So so I use that for all kinds of different when I'm shooting, just try to get the backlit photos.
I mean, I'm sure this photo would be like a beautiful photo shot in this way, but you made it dramatic with the shadows behind, the light and the foreground, everything like that, kind of building that layers all together. And that's what made something like, oh, they're running, but it made such a dramatic and beautiful and exciting shot. You know what I mean? So
and interesting about this image is this was a photo that I wasn't commissioned by anyone. It was just a passion project. This couple were runners in town, and
nice.
I had gone out with them a few times, and they wanted, they were into just going out and having fun and creating some cool photos. And it was like, let's just go out and create something cool. So we went high up in the mountains, and we captured a whole bunch of really cool photos. And as the sun was setting, there was this little trail, and I was like, all right, this is the light I'm looking for. This is what I want. And I shot a bunch of images of them running up that same section. And I was looking through the camera, which is the beauty of digital photography. You get to instantly see what you're getting. And I was looking at it, I'm like, these are good, but they're not, it's not quite what I want. It can be better. I'm my harshest critic whenever I take a photo. Even when I take one of my best photos, I'll still nitpick the photo and be like, I could have done this better. I could have done that better. I could have composed a little better. So I'm looking at the picture, and I was like, it's good. I was getting sun rays, but I was like, I got to get lower. And I was shooting maybe 3 feet off the ground. And then I literally laid on the ground, and those are just little weeds that are only 3 inches tall.
Right.
And I had probably a 16 to 35 on there. And I'm guessing that's somewhere in the 16 mil to 24 mil. And I just laid down and put those little weeds that were getting backlit right up next to the camera lens. So it created a lot more depth in the image, and ended up getting this one frame, which for me was the winning image from the day,
Yeah, it's absolutely gorgeous. I love that story of it. And I love that lens too. That 16 to 35 is just such a gorgeous, sharp, beautiful lens. So.
Oh yeah. You do so much with that. Yeah. It's kind of a go-to lens of mine in the mountains, or has been. I go back and forth with what I bring up there, but it's definitely a go-to lens for sure. It's a workhorse.
Nice. Wow. Jeez. This is just terrifying. I mean, being in there, but you guys obviously are professionals and know what you guys are doing, but just that composition of it and that color of the light coming through, that is a critical moment, how he's just kind of positioned in there. How much of the setup are you doing in something as opposed to allowing them to do what they're doing?
A lot of it's both. This particular image came from a project which kind of was the fuel and the starting point for that Greenland project that we did.
Okay.
So this is a picture of Wilgad. It's up in Canada in the Athabasca Glacier.
Yeah.
And Will started, so he went into this glacier and brought scientists down in there and started kind of combining his expertise and science to take these scientists to places that they didn't have the ability to go to without a professional ice climber. So it's kind of his way of being proactive on what's happening with global warming is get the specialists into these places. And we ended up this particular day we ended up going 240 meters down into a glacier.
Wow.
You know, and this was on the way down, where we were probably only 30 meters down, and you still have the ambient light coming from above. And we're in this, the best way to describe it's like a slot canyon in Utah, just super narrow, but there's all ice walls. And as you know, we're descending through here.
That's crazy.
It was more of an exploratory thing. You know, we wanted to go as far on into this glacier and just document it. But obviously he's an ice climber and I love shooting the action photos.
Of course.
We knew we wanted to get pictures like this. So when I saw this light in the situation, I was like, hey, go climb over there and you know, and I'll shoot this. And he's all game for it. You know, time allowed it. And usually, you know, when our ideas come together and we come up with cool images. And so for this image, I'm pretty sure it was super dark, longer exposure. So I had my camera on a tripod and popped off the image and ended up being one of my favorite images from that.
That's cool.
I mean,
I love that.
How long the exposure was.
This is another one. Yeah. What was that? Sorry.
I was just saying that exposure was like a 20th of a second, so not super long, but
but to hold that and still with that, it's gorgeous.
Yeah, that's why I had it on a tripod with little metal spikes on the feet to keep the tripod still.
Oh, nice. Oh, resourceful there. I love that. This is terrifying with that ice that you're on here. I mean, as you guys are hiking up and as you're doing this, you literally are on some very like just raw ice here. So this is an image that I kind of conceptualized years prior, and I've kind of repeated the same image several times since I first conceptualized it. In which case, in ski mountaineering, it's common to be skiing next to glacier ice, and you see it a lot, you know, where a skier's skiing something really steep and they got this beautiful ice behind them. And I was doing a shoot and captured an image like that with the ice behind them. Yeah. I was back at the hotel looking at the pictures, and I was like, wait a second, you know, the light went off in my head. Yeah. What if I was to climb out onto the ice? Instead of having the ice as the background, have the ice as the foreground. Wow. And I showed my friends the exact, you know, where we're at, and I'm like, let's go back here when we can, you know, and let's do this. I'll climb up on the ice, and you guys, there's this little ribbon of snow right next to it. You guys can descend. And we did it and captured some stunning images, and I've repeated it several times since. And then more recently was this image where we're in Alaska on a trip, you know, primarily just to go ski mountaineering in Denali National Park with three really, really good friends of mine, Jim Morrison, Michelle Parker, and Chris Davenport. And we found that the conditions were really spicy, kind of really challenging, where there was not a whole lot of snow on most of the stuff we wanted to ski, like 6 to 8 to 12 inches of snow with blue ice everywhere. Whoa. So we ended up climbing this line, and we actually ended up skiing back down this. But it came into play again where it was like, all right, and at this point we were having fun, you know. We were just climbing up. We had no expectations, and I climbed out on the ice, and these guys came out. You know, we're climbing next to it, and I was able to capture this image. And then afterwards, you know, my one friend at the bottom, Chris, came up climbing out on the ice too, and was, you know, playing around and having fun on the ice. Yeah. And then before it ended up getting serious and seeing if we could actually ski back down something that steep with very little snow. Holy cow, that's terrifying. But that's kind of, you know, this is that same trip. So this is so kind of the synopsis of this whole trip was going to Alaska. As far as like professional skiers and snowboarders, for years the big thing is to go with helicopters and go fly up to the mountains and ski like these steep spines where there's tons of snow and it's fluted, and you know they flash down these crazy lines. And our idea for this trip was to go to Alaska and not do that, and go to a range where it's primarily couloirs and super technical skiing, where you have to, you know, climb up and then ski back down, which you climbed up. And that's what we found here. We went to a range, part of the range in Alaska called the Kachatnas, which is more known for rock climbing and alpinism. And if you Google it, you know, you're going to get tons of images of just, you know, big rock faces like El Capitan and Half Dome scattered
amongst the glaciers. And in between all these huge rock faces are these little slivers of snow. So we're like, this is where we want, this is what we want to do. This is where we want to go. And no one had really skied there that we knew of. So we couldn't really get any photos. So it was kind of like, we're kind of rolling the dice. Like, well, based on the photos that we've seen, and most of them were not shot when there was snow, because the climbers go there in the summer, when the snow's melted away, it was all blue ice. We were like, we're pretty certain that there's going to be snow in these couloirs, and we kind of rolled the dice and went for it. And sure enough, we got there, and it was a low snow year in Alaska that year, which didn't matter because we weren't trying to get deep powder. And it turned out that everything we wanted to ski ended up having anywhere from no snow to 10 to 12 inches of snow on the blue ice. And this particular image was one of those situations where climbing up this couloir the whole time, we're literally, front pointing our crampons and ice axes into the ice underneath about that much snow. And we were, pretty unnerved at this moment, like not really knowing if the snow's, if he's going to be able to hold this turn or not. And kind of, this is the point of total commitment when our friend's making this turn. And, it just, this image kind of happened where we put our skis on and got gathered up at this point and he was ready to go. I happened to just be up there and I was like, all right, wide angle lens, perfect, and I just shot through my two friends and luckily compositionally, he hit that one turn and you could still see down the couloir where he's going.
Holy cow.
Like that moment of commitment,
I mean, that's a testament too of like your ability, because you got to go down that after, right? Like, it's not like, all right, I'm going to slide down on my butt, I'm going to get picked up here or anything. It's like, that's shooting. And then it's like, you're right into it. You're going just as extreme as the subjects you're capturing.
Ultimately, you could climb back down it, which definitely is a safe way to go. Yeah. But, hopefully you're in a situation where you can make that transition. Nice. Take your skis off and get your crampons on to go down, which is not usually going to be the case. So, at this point, we're pretty committed to what we're doing. And, for me, it was just this image kind of summarized up this trip of what we were doing,
Thank you for tuning in to this week's episode of Between Sets. Make sure to like and subscribe to be tuned in on all future episodes. Thank you.